And even still, and especially with music, when you're going out to network and then eventually like somebody's gonna hear what you've been making, a lot of times it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Like there's things that go on and, producers will hear it. They'll be like, okay, he's side chaining and he knows how to clean up a low end of the mix. So it's just like, there's things that you need to figure out and, develop on your own before you go out.
Welcome to the Hustle Up podcast, where Mikey Lambo just asked me if he threw his glasses on, would it throw me off? Mike is a rapper. He's located in Atlanta, Georgia. This podcast is dedicated to all the movers and shakers out there grinding past a traditional 40-hour work week to create a life by design and stop living life on default. My name is Clint Crow.
Jonathan Hesse.
And Mike here is a good friend. I see him all the time, and he is the perfect example of somebody who is grinding into the wee hours of the night, the early hours of the morning, all hours of the day to create the type of life he wants to live. Anytime you see this guy, he is learning or he is working. You embody it. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, let's start. What type of music do you make? I know you do more than rap. I know you're a talented rapper. What's your story, brother?
Well, to take it all the way back, I've always been involved with music. My mother owned a music management company. She managed a few different artists. So
Anyone notable?
Not that I would know, to be honest. It's back in the 90s.
What genre?
Hip hop.
Okay.
So I was always in the studio as a kid. I was around it. Growing up, I tried a few different instruments. I tried guitar, I tried piano. Those didn't pan out, but I ended up sticking with the violin. Played violin for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Wrote poetry for a while. Stopped that, and then eventually got into rapping. When I was in middle school, I ended up getting a copy of Fruity Loops, which is music production software. Dabbled with that for a little bit, put that down, and then somehow music production found its way back to me. So here I am. I produce hip hop, dance music, R&B, a little bit of everything.
Nice.
Just having fun with it.
How long have you been actually doing the production side?
It'll be 2 years in October.
Okay. Nice. So have you noticed anything? What are the similarities, I guess, in music theory that the violin and rapping and producing all have in common?
Just music, the essence. When I played the violin, I was in orchestra, so you got to think that's a group activity. That's people coming together, working on one piece, focusing and bringing a composition to life, essentially. I was in an orchestra with over 100 different people, so that's lots of unity, and that's a thing that goes on with songs as well. Everybody's singing a song together in unison at a concert, so there's similar parallels like that.
When a few years ago, when Streaming Global was getting started, back in the day it was called another company, but they had the incubator house.
Mm-hmm.
You moved in.
Good times.
Yeah, good times.
Good times.
Many a time.
That's the time.
You moved in and you were putting in. Did you quit your job? And were you practicing music every day or hopping on the computer every day? What was that time of life like?
Very interesting. At that point in my life, I had so to rewind a little bit before that, I used to work with an engineer, an artist, producer, local here. His name was Gross. Shout out to Stevie G.
Yeah.
And Steve, he was there. He and I were always in the lab together cooking up, but he moved. And I was pretty much put into a position where without Steve, I couldn't create music efficiently.
What did he do that you weren't doing at the time?
Steve was like the right-hand man. So he was producing. He was letting me focus on being the artist.
Okay.
He did everything, and I was, we had that relationship going on. But when Steve moved, I was like, yo, I can't really make music like that anymore. So around that time period is when I fell into the incubator house with you guys. And the first thing I did was learn to mix, mix my vocals. Because I already had recording equipment, I already was kind of seasoned and, press a single button, get the vocal, go from there. So I really just started going in on vocal production, mixing to the beat, mixing the beat down, and then to answer your question, that's pretty much what happened there.
I remember for a while you were putting in a beat a day. Was it a whole summer? How long were you doing this for? And what kind of growth did you see?
To be real with you, it wasn't like a truly defined time period. It was just right when I started producing. I told myself I was gonna do 3 beats a day, like minimum. 3 beats a day, like off the rip. I was like, yo, making my own beats is the only thing holding me back. I was like, let's just get really good, really quick. Let's make minimum 3 a day. Cause I heard Kanye was doing 5 a day for 3 summers. Everybody's talking about that, and I was like, okay, I can do 3 a day. I got time.
And Russ had just blown up off his song a day thing, like what, not even a year before?
Yeah, he was doing like a song a week for
That's
2 years, 2 years, a year, 2 years, something like that.
A minute.
Yeah, so he was, the inspiration was there, and I just kind of followed suit with the production. Some days I hit more, some days I was hitting like 7, when you're really feeling it. Some days were a little less when you're not feeling it, but I was trying to do 3 a day, and that went on for the first 600 beats.
Yeah.
Part of the one of the more challenging things of living the life by design is having to forge your own path without essentially following a blueprint. Mm-hmm. So how did you know what to even learn? How did you know what to search in Google or YouTube to even start laying down the pathway of becoming a producer?
Really, it just came down to like, that's a good question. It's honest. You start kind of broad. You just get on YouTube, you type like how to make beats. And I remember for the longest time, like it just didn't click. Like I was having trouble. Like I would type in how to make beats and I'd have to watch the same video back like 3 times. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just like me being unfamiliar with the program, using Logic, for the first time really hands-on, or I don't know if it was like the music theory. I don't know if it was a mindset thing, it being like a big daunting task to fucking make a beat, but at first it wasn't clicking. But then, after repetition, just watching, this guy explain the concept over and over, it just kind of stuck. And I was like, okay, I understand a snare might go here, or a kick goes here. Now where do I go? Now what's next? What kind of beat do I want to make now that I understand the beat?
Cutting down on that learning curve. So YouTube University, I'm a big believer that YouTube is like the next college. And anytime I've messed around with beat making or EDM, it's straight to the YouTube video. It's almost like when I was a kid, I used to draw. And then so I would take something and I would trace it over a light board, and I would trace this drawing 500 times, or like the outline of it, not 500, a lot of times, the outline, and then add my own lines. And it was almost something similar with music. It's like, okay, I'm gonna recreate the beat the way they did it, and then mess with my arrangement, or just get familiar with this program and get into it. At what point did you see that learning curve? Because you're using Logic, right? Mm-hmm. At what point, you said you did 3 beats a day for 600 days. At what point did you said it didn't click at first. When did it click? Like how quickly or how long did it take? If anyone's thinking about getting into music production, what's a reasonable learning curve?
Starting from ground zero.
I would say really just take your time with it until you understand like the fundamentals. Because if memory serves me right, I watched videos over and over before I actually made the first beat, because I wanted to understand and not have to keep going back and forth and referencing. And then after I understood like what goes where, these are the core elements of a beat, I just applied like knowing how, or my understanding of learning and improvement, I applied that to that baseline level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And to like not be vague about it, when I made my first, I was doing 3 a day, I was like, okay, every beat just needs to sound vastly different than the last one. Yeah. Which forces me to not be stuck on what I was doing.
Are you working with different musical keys? Are you working with different instruments? How did you get that variety?
Different instruments. So like, I'm sure you're familiar with like plugins and different things.
Yeah.
They have tons of different sounds, loaded in there. So with a click of a button, I can go from a piano to a harp to a trumpet to a guitar. So it was just a matter of like, okay, you did a violin last time, no violins, go get a guitar, electric guitar.
Something that you said that I have to play contrary to, because I read it in a book, is that you watched the video multiple times before applying. And Daniel Coyle's got, this is Daniel Coyle, that was his name, not Daniel Coyle.
Of a similar opinion.
Yeah, he's got a book called The Talent Code, and it talks about myelin, which essentially is the compound effect of a neural passageway. And the more it's like the muscle, it's like the rubber part around a wire. And the more you practice something, the stronger it gets. and he told the story about this girl who learned how to play violin actually infinitely quicker than anyone else, because she would learn something and then immediately apply it, but then immediately self-reflect and see what she did wrong, and then keep iterating that.
The feedback.
Yeah, exactly. That feedback loop of learn, iterate, reflect, learn, iterate, reflect. And she was able to exponentially learn the violin with an element of professionalism quicker than anybody else who was in that sample.
Interesting.
You know, there's a solid book. It's called the Debrief Imperative, and I don't remember who it's by, but the author was in the business world. He went into the Marines and became a Marine fighter pilot. He woke up one day, he decided that's my life by design, and he wanted to fly jets. And so after every flight, after every mission, they would hold a lessons learned. It's that reflection.
Right.
This was nobody's passing blame, nobody's finding fault. What went right? What went wrong? How can we improve next time?
Right.
Back in World War II, the U.S. was not doing this, and we were making careless mistakes. We were getting shot down. Our pilots were suffering. We happened to have superior equipment and do better, but that's what all those movies, Top Gun later on, everything into the 60s and 70s, are about that pilot mentality.
Right.
You're wild, you're getting fast, you're getting speed, you're almost like this uncontrollable hero because you're behind the biggest, baddest machine.
Right.
And they tanked that down with the reflection. They came in every time. They said, A, you're not invincible, and B, this is serious machinery. If you're in one of the new fighter jets, you're operating tens of millions, maybe, I don't know how much it costs, but a hell of a lot of money worth of equipment.
Yeah.
So if you wreck that plane, you also just wrecked an investment. That reflection period, it's myelin for them too, right? When you were talking about music earlier, we went to a networking event a few weeks ago within the music industry.
Shout out Cymatics.
Shout out Cymatics. These guys are cool. We're gonna have them on later.
Yeah.
Using all your sounds.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
Literally.
and this networking event stood out to me. It must have been 200 or 300 people in there.
Yeah.
The room was packed. What are your thoughts on networking and getting around other producers?
It's crucial. It's crucial, but I would say there comes a time for it. There's a time and place for it. Like, unless you just buckled down and created like a production powerhouse, a super team or whatever, like at some point you need to spend that time alone. Because like me, I don't know if it would have been best for me to start off on a team producing, because I don't know how quickly my own sound and style would have developed if
You get compartmentalized at that point.
Right.
And it's also, I was just gonna say real quick to that point, it's the same thing as the learning in music creation. Learn your skill, learn your trade, act, build it, and then or in this case, make your music, act by networking and getting it out there, and reflect. And just keep iterating that. There's, like you were saying, there's a time to make music, a time to show music, and a time to reflect before you start making music again.
And and especially with music, when you're going out to network and then eventually like somebody's gonna hear what you've been making, a lot of times it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Like there's things that go on and producers will hear it. They're like, okay, he's side chaining and he knows how to clean up a low end of the mix. So it's just like there's things that you need to figure out and develop on your own before you go out and do that.
One of the things that you hear in all the rap songs, not all of them, G-Eazy, Russ, you mentioned Kanye earlier. I've been holed away for 3 summers doing beats all day, right? You can hear them in the lab, in the dungeon. Shout out to Big Sean. What's the name of the song you showed me? Thank you. He talks about
just bought a mansion and moved in the dungeon.
It's that play hard, work harder mentality that we care about so much, right? You've got that mix, and I like the way that you put it. There's a time and place for it. Meet other producers, collab, hear other styles, maybe incorporate some of this or that, and at the same time, you're on the grind. You for the most part, you're going to be doing your production alone, right?
Yeah.
So,
personally.
Yeah, well, and I think it's true for a lot of producers. What are your thoughts on the the balance of introversion. Like if you've been holed up for 3 or 4 days on the grind, do you need to get out and go get around people, or like how do you balance that mix? Because I know I tend to prefer to be around people most of the time, and I know that introverted people tend to, they recharge alone, and then they want to get out. So where do you fall on that mix, and what's that work play balance look like to you?
Man, if I wasn't introverted before I started producing, I definitely became an introvert.
Yeah.
Because spending all that time alone, it is definitely essential.
Yeah.
Like, it's essential to get out there and just be with people. Like,
for
a couple months, I was just, my face in front of the screen, and it was getting to a point where, like, I forgot what other people listened to.
Yeah.
I was listening to my own music, and I was pulling from my own inspirations, and I would, like, show people stuff and get nothing. And then I just had to go out and do different things, like when I go to the gym without headphones, I listen to what they're playing. Or I go to concerts with you guys, you guys are, that's a whole...
And then you think, this is pop music? If I ever, if somehow I get in the car and it, and Sirius pops up with like a Channel 40 or something, I'm always confused. I said, this is what's popular right now, right?
Yeah.
For the record, we do not go to pop concerts.
Hell no.
Nothing against pop artists. We don't go to pop concerts.
Hey, I'll go to one.
Hey, I might as well check it out. I have never been to one.
Different atmosphere.
Tell me this, what do you think about the concept, good artists paint, great artists steal? What does that mean to you? Not ironically, but that quote was quoted by Steve Jobs.
Okay.
Not created by Steve Jobs.
It was created by Picasso.
It was, I don't know where it was created, but it was quoted by Steve Jobs.
Alright, we can look it up.
Yeah.
Let me figure this out.
I feel many different ways about it. That's in a great book by Alex Kleon, I think that's how you say his name, Steal Like an Artist. He talks about that.
Isn't there like a diagram where it's like create versus, or it was like
is it a matrix? A 4?
No, it was just like, it was like a T graph, or whatever it's called, a T table, and it's like creative versus like stolen or something like that.
I think there is a little reference for that.
Yeah.
Igor Stravinsky.
Yeah, I love Stravinsky.
Yeah.
And it was essentially, what the creator does is they take different pieces of art from different things and kind of add them together and then put their sauce on them and give credit.
Right.
Whereas the appropriator straight up traces it, puts it out, and puts their name on it.
A great quote, and I don't know where it came from, it escapes me at the time, but a lot of people say that creativity is subtraction. So if you gave me something, you gave me a piece of art, I could like look at it and be like, what could I take away from this and build upon? And in essence, that would be, stealing.
Yeah. Well, that's that. Because nothing in this world is revolutionary. It's all evolutionary.
Yeah,
it's all compounded onto something. And if you think of anything that could prove that wrong, feel free to comment down below. But I mean, you know what I'm saying. So it's just like, what is that line between stealing or appropriating and creatively using as influence? Because I was watching a documentary on Netflix called Creativity, and Nathan Merville, the co-founder and former CTO of Microsoft, was on there talking about how he does everything from nuclear physics to he's made a recipe book that uses physics instead of ingredients. So instead of a pinch of something that makes, let's say, 8 cupcakes, he says put this percentage of it in there and it scales up to 8, 20, however many cupcakes, but it's still the same percentage. And so he's into cooking, he's obviously into technology, right? And what he says is creativity is just taking past influences and kind of putting your algorithm to it and then putting it out.
I mean, there's many different ways to create, but essentially, you're putting your spin on something that's there.
What does it mean to steal art and make it popular? And be great. What does it mean to steal and be great?
Could you give an example of a time that's happened? Not to you, but just in general.
Steal and be great? I mean...
What does it mean when great artists steal? Or steal like an artist? What does that mean?
What do you do? I mean, okay, good example. They say it's not who did it first, it's who did it right.
Yeah.
Never who did it first, it's always who did it right. So,
Apple didn't make the first computer.
Prime example.
Yeah.
Prime example. And just like you have many different brands that appeal to many different people serving the same product or service, whatever, it's really just what you do with it.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's a common term in marketing. This is how it's worded in a marketing book that I wrote, that it's not first to market, it's first to perception. So when you think of something, whether they were there first or not, what brand or what artist do the masses think about? Like when I say trap, hip, trap rap, who do you think?
I'm thinking Future.
Future, yeah, same.
Sure.
Like conscious rap.
Future.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like a different.
Oh, you think Future's conscious rap?
No. He was just saying that.
J. Cole.
J. Cole, yeah, J. Cole, like
Big Sean.
Joey Badass.
Joey Badass, right?
All the pros.
Yeah. So I wanna keep this moving because I know you're a multi-dimensional person. So you got any more music questions?
Not at the moment.
We can come back.
What are some of your other interests?
Fitness. Fitness is definitely a big one. I'm definitely into like, and just to segue off music, like that's also a driving factor for me. Like some days I take pre-workout and I go to the gym, but other days my pre-workout is like listening to the beats that I just made the night before. Like if that makes
You get hyped off your beats.
Yeah, it's like I wake up, be like, damn, what did I make last night? Let's bump it in the car on the way to the gym. Let's bump it in the gym. Let's hear how it sounds in the gym. Let's hear how it sounds, you know?
Yeah.
So fitness is there. Fitness is very important. That's big with being like, you know, just image, artist, brand, all that good stuff.
What do you do like for fitness? Do you work out a lot? Do you eat right? Do you do both?
Both.
So what does eating right mean to you? Let's start there.
To me, it's eating in line with your goals.
Okay.
So whatever your goals may be, you need to eat. Your diet needs to consist of foods that are conducive to your goals.
And you just what have you done recently in the last 5 months to change your lifestyle or eating habits?
So in the past 5 months, I think I dropped like 20 pounds. But what I did, I cut dairy, I cut soy, I cut preservatives as much as I possibly could. You know, you can't always 100% do that.
Try not to be a soy boy.
Yeah, try not to.
Why did you choose those to cut?
Just research over the years, just various things I've heard, various things I've seen, some personal stuff going on, family, health related issues. That was a big
Kind of inspired you to make the switch.
I heard you were trying to get more estrogen in your system.
Who told you that?
I thought you said that.
Yeah, that's a big no, but the family influence and just, you know, what you can do for others. Like if I get right, other people will see that and get inspired. It's the same thing with music. Like, you know, if I'm getting right musically, somebody who has the dream of making music might get right musically. So that's big. That's been a very large focus of mine. Big into esports. I played competitive Super Smash Bros. For the better half of 10 years now.
Wow. And any
Little
success
more.
in that regard?
In recent years, as a competitor, no. These days I actually run tournaments, but when I was younger, I had a very good run with that. Taught me a lot. A lot of the principles about learning and focus, drive, all that, that was where I got that from.
Like what? Can you?
Let's talk about it as a side hustle though.
Yeah.
Like as a side hustle, you run tournaments every Thursday. So how did you take something that you love,
Mhm.
and I don't even want to know how much it makes, but
Yeah.
turn it into something that makes you weekly money?
Honestly, it was the experience of being a competitor in the past, and then finally being in position to flip positions, if that makes. So like, I've been to countless tournaments. I've been to regionals, locals. I've been back when I was competing. Tournaments were in people's basements, you know, house tournaments. So I've seen what they offer, how late they run, brackets. We've been through 10 different bracket software. So I understand the mind of a competitor, what makes it easy, the environment they want to be in, you know, listening to feedback. I understand what it takes to play the game competitively and continually show up to do so.
Kind of like how at Chick-fil-A, you have to work every position in a Chick-fil-A before you can own one.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it's for that same reason is you've got to be in on the ground floor and you've got to know how to do everything, because the person who manages, like if you're managing this thing and it's called cheat code, right?
Yeah.
And you're managing this, you got to know how to be able, essentially the higher your position and you're at the top of this hierarchy,
Yeah.
the higher your position, the bigger the problems you have to solve. So you have to be able to solve problems in every facet of what you're doing.
You're micromanaging.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm watching the venue, I'm watching the players, I'm running brackets sometimes, you know, it's just making sure everybody's happy, accommodated, handling the money, the payouts, all sorts of. And, you know, you get that experience, you see it, and I think, like, subconsciously I picked up on it so much as a kid and just kind of ran with it.
So what are that cash or do you use Square? How do you do payments?
Cash.
Yeah.
So what are some of these kind of epiphanies or thoughts that you've had from gaming that you said have compounded over the years?
Oh man, okay. In what aspect do you, I mean, bro, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Like so one thing that I like to read as well, and so recently I've been reading up on like Zen and just fluidity and
What
awareness. There's actually a book just called like Zen. It's
Oh,
called
really?
Zen. Yeah,
Do you know
it's
who
like,
it's by?
I don't. Picked it up at a yard sale.
Yeah.
But it was a very good book. It just talked about being present aware in the moment. And there's another quote that goes, "You don't really know a man until you fight him." I don't know if you guys have ever heard
Well,
that.
Fight Club says that too. How much can you know about yourself if you haven't been in a fight?
Exactly.
How much can you know about something else if you haven't been in a fight with them?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. 100%. So like, for me, you know, I'm not running around squaring up on people, but I'm sitting down and playing Smash Bros. A lot. You know, I probably played a million games in my life. You just learn, like, I can sit down with somebody and I can see how they deal with pressure. I can see how they handle, you know, me not giving them anything. I can see how they try and get in on me, whether they like to be defensive, retreat, are they standoffish. I learned these things about myself. Am I greedy? Am I impatient? You just pick apart a lot of things, especially when you have time to like analyze it, sit back, and it's like that self-reflection we were talking about.
Yeah.
Learning to learn. So like when I was really in it, I would go to tournaments, I'd get my footage recorded, and I would sit and I would just look like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could I do more of? And these are like all principles that I took and I just carried into every aspect of life. So
Yeah. And so you've learned this from playing games, and I know you're a big Kingdom Hearts 3 or whatever.
Kingdom Hearts in general, baby.
What was because I remember after you played that game, so me and Mike are really good friends. Like Clint said, he lived in our house, in the Shouty house at one point, and we were roommates for many years before that. So I know you're always big on having these life epiphanies and drawing these correlations and congruencies with esports or with music or with fitness. And you're always just like, you know, you'll pop back up from the gym, or you'll pop back up from your industry hours, which is from 12 to 5 a.m. when you're working on music.
Shooting in the gym, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll be like, I just had this new life thought. And I remember that the one with Kingdom Hearts 3 was specifically pivotal in your way of thinking. Do you have a recollection of what that was?
Oh, I'll tell you everything, man. Because
Right.
it's weird to say, but like I
Keep
honestly,
it digestible for people like me who don't know what the fuck it is.
All right, I resonate with the main character a lot. I feel like I am him to a degree. Like he's running around helping his friends out. He's on
What's
a
his
mission.
name?
Sora. His name's
Sora?
Yeah, he's running around helping his friends out. He's on a mission, but he still makes time for everybody. Like no matter what's going on in his world, he like is there to help somebody else and then keep it moving. So like the series as a whole, it started in 2004, and we just got closure like January of this year. So it's been a long time to finish a series. Like when people talk about waiting for a TV show, like a couple months, I'm like, damn, I've been waiting 14 years for this shit. So when the game finally finished, some of the epiphanies I just had, like awaiting its arrival, I was like, yo, patience is truly a virtue. Because this is a game that could have come out on, you know, old generation hardware, PlayStation 2, but instead we get it on PS4, where the visuals are better, the audio is better, the storytelling is better, the fan base is better, so what they're going to give the fan base is better, and it's just like things really do age like wine. They get better with time. So it's like, I could have gotten this 10 years ago, but I appreciate it much more now that I have to wait. Another thing is that the way they kind of told the story, the first one came out in 2004, the second one in the series, the second titled entry, came out in 2008. Third one comes out 2019.
Wow.
They do all sorts of spin-offs, sequels, prequels in between during that time period. So one thing I learned is like, yo, you really have to understand the beginning and all the filler and everything in order to appreciate the end.
Yeah.
Like you really have to see it and understand everybody's perspective that's going on.
And that kind of ties back into that starting from the bottom, from ground zero, whether it be for music or whether it be for starting a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I think, you know, when you mentioned that you were glad you didn't start in a production group, that's a good thing, because you, like I said, you get compartmentalized.
Yeah.
But if not, you can really try everything and
Yeah.
at least dabble in everything. You don't have
You
to
have
be
the liberties.
yeah, you don't have, you could be a master of none and a jack of all trades and still master your craft.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of fascinating how that's a repeating theme in the gaming and in the starting your side hustle and in the music. So Good.
And I was gonna say, like, the whole seeing everything in order to understand and appreciate and patience, it's like that's carried over into my music, like my music creation. Because when I started off, I was a violinist, but I was just a rapper. So I was coming in, and I came up on super duper lyrical hip hop. Like, I was listening to nothing but New York guys and Lil Wayne, Metaphors.
Yeah.
So like, I was coming in trying to hit people with the craziest lyrics they ever heard, but like, music is deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's not until I went through that journey and walk of life, hanging and spending time with other people, where I was able to truly see that.
Yeah.
It's like something patience imposed on me,
Yeah, and it's like patience applicable to music. It's like not just being patient with the process, but being patient, like, no one wants you. I mean, people do.
Some people do.
But that's a very niche like market, right? That's like like your Royce da 5'9", like people like that, like cool. But you can't. And if that's you, like that's fine. But you can't go mainstream with that sound. You've got to have a more, at least from my personal perspective, you got to have a more like patient, like melodic flow. Like if you're gonna go like do that for like 4, 6, 8 bars, and then kind of just slow it up a little bit.
I think. Well, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, because I know we're in the studio a lot, and sometimes you tell me to slow it down or speed it up, and I think it's that oscillation of the music, right? So it's going fast and then it's going slower.
It's a ride. It's a ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want a stale ride the whole way through. You don't want a bumpy ride the whole way through. You don't want a slow mellow ride the whole way through. You want something with ups and downs.
Speaking of rides, who would be your favorite artist to listen to in the car?
Other than yourself.
You can say yourself.
Right now, it's most definitely me.
Yeah.
Just the production, and now that I'm like rapping on my own production, but in the car, only in the car.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Tory Lanez.
Yeah.
Tory Lanez is really good in the car. Drake. I like to drink and drive. You see me tweet. That's something else. That's an experience. Drinking and driving. But yeah, one of those two. Shouts out Canada.
Do you listen to your own music when you bang? Yeah, that's a bet.
When you bang?
When you bang. Are you putting your own tunes on, baby?
Do you really? You do?
I mean, what you?
It sounds like
I don't know.
It sounds like you have.
As a producer, I'm producing. Like I'm producing.
Yeah, sounds for whatever.
Produce.
Well, that's a good segue. So,
because every time she listens to your song, she's gonna have that memory. Yeah,
that's a good segue, because part of when we were talking about our relationships one and done, check it out, awesome episode. It's pretty much gone viral. It has. But one of the things I had told you was that there's no fucking way I could be in a relationship right now, because I've got one main hustle. I've got 2 side hustles, and when I'm not doing that, I'm with you in the studio doing industry hours, right? So when you have such a similar schedule, what is your relationship life like? Does it exist? Does it not exist right now? And does it not exist, or does it exist because, does it exist or does it not exist? And why?
It's funny, bro, because I have, not to troll you, but like, bro, relationship is a very broad term. So like, my love life right now,
romantic relationship.
Yeah, because I was about to say, like, even as a whole, my relationships have been like suffering, because I've been so focused on literally this. Like, it was really getting bad for a while. But relationship wise, I'm chilling right now. I'm getting right. I'm working on fitness. I'm focusing on music. Just like you guys are saying, like, I'm building for the future right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really building this not only for me, and this is crazy. I'd love to talk mindset a little bit, but like, I'm not in the position where I have, dependents. I don't have a family, like a son or a wife, but I think like that. As I work, like, I think, what if I had other people depending on me right now? Like, we were asking about the first 600 beats or whatever, how I was getting through it, like my mindset. Like, to me, there was really no option at that point. Like, I was like, okay, my boy Stevie is gone. I was like, at some point, I'm gonna have to provide for other people doing this, so I might as well just fucking do it right now.
Yeah.
Like, think like that, move like that, work like that. So right now, relationship-wise, I'm chilling, but I still think and operate in that.
It's kind of like every friend I have who's my age, who's who's had a child,
Mhm.
when they find out that their girl is pregnant, their life does a complete 180 in a month.
Yeah.
And it's honestly incredible to watch. Like, shout out to all my friends who are watching, who are in that class. Like, you guys have all turned it around and turned the heat up, and it's honestly kind of incredible to see someone who may have done a lot of drugs or drank too much or partied just too much, and then turn it around completely, get a job, and really be that provider, that breadwinner. Do you think you could be in a relationship right now if you found the right person, or do you think it's just you're just on lock mode, you're kind of on introvert mode?
I can do it.
Yeah.
To be real, I mean, look, we're on the Hustle Up podcast. Like, bro, like, handle your shit, boss up, and get your hustle up. Like, yo, it's just that right now I'm not like actively going out and doing that. Like, I'm focused on getting right.
Yeah.
With me, because how can I be right for somebody else if I'm not right with myself? Like, I can't be a dependent in the relationship. You know what I'm saying? I can't be over here like, oh, I need you. Like, no.
That's a big thing that Clint had mentioned in that episode as well, which is you never want to fill someone else, or you never want to feel complete together. You want to be complete individually.
Yeah, complement each other.
Yeah, it's like when you're on fire, that other person's on fire, your sparks will just come together.
Yeah.
So
beautiful when that happens.
It really is, bro. It really is. So what is your music mainly about? For anyone who's never heard your music before, which you can find him Mikey Mikey Lambo Lambo on all streaming platforms.
Boom, boom, baby.
There it is, right there. Hold it up. A little early shout out for the kid. Hell
mouse
yeah.
pad. Who you know got a mouse pad?
There you go. So what's your music about? What's the overlaying motif?
So I'm chilling on the rapping for right now, but for the most part, the rapping contains some pretty good lyricism, metaphors, and flows. That was like my focal point when I first started and was going on for a while. Telling my story personally. Right now, I'm focused more on production. So whether that's helping, the guys who come out in the studio with me, we're getting songs together. I'm working on those collabs, and then I'm working on just bringing value through the music, whatever that may be. So like value could be entertainment. I could make you feel happy, sad, angry. I can give you a rush in the gym. Just bringing something to you through music.
How important are numbers to you? Data, stats, who's listening to your music, who's not, what's your demographic? Because it sounds like you're not making music for people, you're making it for yourself.
No, I mean, why do you say that? Why do you say it sounds that way?
Well, just because I know you, and like I know it's a common theme, like Russ, for example, right? We're all huge Russ fans. That's why we mention him so much. But he doesn't give a fuck about his numbers,
Yeah,
he just he just makes his music. Quote him. What's the quote?
He says streams don't reflect impact.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the deepest things I've ever heard, because I feel like we're all fucked in this era of thinking about the streams. The analytics are important because you see, like for me, for example, I have more streams on SoundCloud coming. I get my analytics, I check them. I have more streams coming from the Russian Federation than I do my own state, here. So it's like I could use that and
make for a Russia tour.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like
dead ass. Let's do it.
That
Hustle up, coming to you live from Russia.
Hey, and Australia.
That's hard.
There. But I mean, he's right. Streams don't reflect impact. Like I get messages from people that say like, one of your songs changed my life, and like, yo, that's awesome. But sometimes like my own family doesn't listen to my music. So I can't get jaded. I have to make it. I have to express myself. And eventually I feel like it always falls on the people that need to hear it. As long as you're being like true and authentic and you just make what's real to you, somebody will feel that.
So what's your goal? Are you going to be an independent artist? Are you going to get signed to a label? Obviously you don't have a crystal ball, right? Mm-hmm. But if reality worked out how it did in your head, what's your path of making your main hustle music?
So you want me to get to like my magnum opus of like music?
I mean that's a little more grandiose. Like what there's steps together.
20-year goal.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the magnum opus and then we can like go back.
Yeah.
Magnum opus, literally, if I could make a video game, but just have like hands-on in every regard. Like I would write the script, draw the characters, pen the music, voice the characters, draw the worlds. Probably wouldn't design it. I'd focus on the other aspects. But if I can just get in there and do that, that would be my magnum opus. But steps to getting there, man, and pulling that all together. Like I want to have music in video games, film, Netflix is popping. Like, I want to get music to the streamers. Like, I want to get music to the YouTubers, the bloggers. I want to make albums with not just like my friends. Like, we're doing that right now, but like I want to get in the industry. Like, I want to make albums. One of my big goals is I have like a list of influences, very long list of rappers who helped me get to where I am. And now that I'm seeing what's up, bro, like I'll just pay the feature price, make an album with them, and call it a day.
Yeah.
Like that's
So on like a spectrum from production to artist, where are you?
Production artist?
Yeah,
I'm
like,
floating in the middle. Because now in today's age, producers are artists as well.
so would you rather? But like, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is everything you just talked about has a lot less to do with being an artist and much more to do with making soundtracks, making scores. Like, is that the path you want to take, or do you want to be like a Drake or a Tory Lanez?
Why you gotta limit it? Why can't you be a Russ?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's what I'm
because
saying.
based off what he just said about his goals.
I mean, eventually, like that involves me just doing a bigger work. But like, is that not art?
No, I'm not
To
saying it's not
make
art. I'm
something
just
like
saying.
that, is that not art?
No, I'm just
Like-
saying. Like I just want to understand where you want to go, because like I feel, I don't know. For me, like I have a very direct path. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I wanna accomplish this, and then I want to accomplish that, and then I want to accomplish this. I'm not like sitting in the middle of two, not feuding. I guess they are complementary, but you can't. You know, you could be like a Russ, artist producer, but Russ doesn't have time to do soundtracks and scores on the side because he's doing all of his own marketing, he's doing all of his own writing, all of his own production.
I feel that.
And I just feel like if you have a goal, you should reverse engineer to get there, and don't make decisions that push you away from that.
No, that's big facts. That's big facts.
Yeah.
So if you, what was the question? How do we get here?
Magnum opus.
Magnum opus.
And would you rather be do you identify as an artist or a producer?
Right. I was actually speaking with my mother about this the other day. I had business cards made, and she was like, "You have something wrong with here." And I was like, What's wrong?" She was like, "You're not a recording artist." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "You're a musician." And so we went back and forth for a minute, but ultimately I looked up like what a musician was, and we pulled the definition. And a musician does all this. They do the production, they do the mixing, they do the sound selection, they do all of that. They do the writing, they do the vocals. So it's like, okay, yeah, I am a musician. I play instruments, I do all that.
Yeah.
So not to like give you that answer, but I feel like that's it. Like I don't have to limit myself as just an artist or just a producer.
Should a record label want to sign you though, and it's the right deal, you would do that at the risk of your magnum opus going away?
Would a record label would I
Like if a
sign-
record label wanted to sign you for, I don't know how the record deals work, but in this world that I had in my head, if a record label wanted to sign you 10 years as an artist, and they want to put you out as an artist, you're gonna lose a decade on getting to where your true ambition lies. So is that a deal that you would take or not?
That's deep. That's real deep. I'll probably pass that up, bro.
Yeah.
Probably pass that up. I mean, just give. What's up?
What about the opportunity cost of possibly never reaching your magnum opus? Like if you took the artist deal, it might take you 10 more years, but now you've got the means and the cash flow to accomplish it when it's time.
To accomplish the magnum opus. I'd rather grind 10 years on the magnum opus than go 10 years as just a recording artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, that's not to get too much into the label situation, but I'm diverse. I can mix, I can produce, and I can be the recording artist. So I have 3 different assets I bring to the table. How am I getting fucked out of not completing my magnum opus for 10 years?
It's an interesting point. Tell me about LamboLoops.com.
I love the quote, man. Quotes are a big thing in my life.
Dude, quotes are huge.
Quotes are huge, man, and I just be getting rappers all the time. Like, when you brought that up, like, I feel Drake. Drake said, my record deal should be 500 million. Like, I feel you, dog. Like,
yeah. The opportunity cost needs to be something substantially high.
Yeah, especially the way, like, labels are kind of set up, where artists are not getting nearly as much as the label. Like, for what they do.
Especially if they're locked into 360.
Yeah. So.
Tell us about Lambo's Loops, or Lambo Loop. Lambo or Lambo's?
Lambo.
Lambo Loops.
Lambo Loops. Recently started licensing my production, so that's anybody who might need it for a Netflix film, or a rapper who might want to go to, like, just get on a beat. So I'm building the YouTube presence. Lambo Loops goes to my website. It's on BeatStars. Shout out BeatStars. Just got production up there you can lease.
You got a lot of beats up there?
Got about 20 up there right now.
So you can just go on lamboloops.com and look at your beats and hear them out?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's fresh stuff right now. Right now I haven't gone through too much of the old catalog. I'm just keeping consistent with where I'm at right now. And when it's done, when the mix is done, I'm uploading it. So you're getting present.
What if an artist wants to have you engineer, or record, or mix them?
Hey, we can talk about it. I'm down with it. If they're local, we can get in there. If not, in this digital age, people can send stems and collaborations happen to the internet.
How do you go about turning something creative into a business, right? So like at first, anyone who was willing to collab, you just, because you were learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you charge by project or hourly for this, right?
Yeah.
So what was that threshold where you got to where you were like, okay, my craft is so refined at this point, I have to start charging for it?
It's interesting because until this happened, I didn't know what to think, but people would start hitting me up. They would just be like, yo, man, I really want to record with you. Or like, yo, this beat was super fire.
Yeah.
And then I had people start offering money. And then once they start offering you, like, hey, I will pay you this much for this beat, then it's like, okay, it's time to get into business.
Right.
Like, people value it at this much.
So you let the market dictate it.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. It's very similar to business, and it's kind of weird because I've never been selling an art, right? I'm in technology now.
Right.
I've always been in sales, but it's always been a product. But I know that's a big thing because you take the culture, not even culture, let's call it the mindset. You take the mindset of an artist, it doesn't really mend well with how business works.
Yeah, because it's more, you're very vulnerable and open and emotional as an artist, and you can't really be getting that way when you're conducting your business.
No, you're right.
No, I was gonna say,
no, you're right. I mean, you're the
when you
artist
look
here.
at the
Yeah.
balance of it,
But
right?
I do a little bit of both now.
Yeah.
Music is the yang, is the yin, and business is the yang, right?
Yeah.
And so you can achieve a balance there for sure. Plenty of people have in music business, right?
Mhm.
But music embodies chaos. It embodies that it's done at night
Spectrum, yeah.
most of the time, right? Yeah.
How do you detach from it to not only operate the business side of it, but also be susceptible and open to constructive criticism and feedback?
Constructive criticism for
As far as if let's say an artist comes over and you're showing him 4, 5, 6 beats and he don't like any of them, or if someone you're working with recommends to do something, or if someone's like, yo, give me this for $50 instead of $100, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's the evolution and the experience of just me as a producer, then getting into business. That's really helped with that, because initially that could happen. I would go and I would play somebody 5 or 6 beats, and when I'm 100 deep, you're really looking for validation. You're like, man, I just made this today. I hope they like it. What are they gonna say about it? But it's as I get more refined and I just have my own understanding of what I like, what I know sounds good. When you understand the rules, you break them. So if somebody doesn't like a beat, it's okay, I know I have more. This person might not be the fit for me. This is what it is now. It's I have more. This person might not be the fit for me. Now I also have an understanding that I could show you a beat. You might have had a bad day. You don't want to hear nothing happy. You want to hear some sad beats.
Yeah.
That's an understanding. Then cheat code for all the producers out there. Everybody likes a beat when they're in the studio because you have high quality speakers and everything, so your music sounds top notch.
Right.
It's coming out the studio speakers.
It's always better in the car, in the studio, on a sound system. And as a producer, you want that beat played on the highest quality. No, this is what it sounds like when I make it. Yeah, right.
Do you have any verses that you've written that stand out that if you if you left to go to an island tomorrow, you would become a legend for, or people would really identify with?
People on the island or people back here?
No, people back here.
I'm sure I've got something out there. I know I have millions of verses in my phone, to be real with you.
Yeah.
But as far as what's out right now, I mean, there's people that have told me this song is what I wake up to and I get pumped, and this song makes me believe different. Yeah.
Different vibes for different people.
I have songs that I love that I feel like, verses that I love that I think could make me poppin', but some people don't always see it that way.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing with artistry too, like a big thing that sets artists apart. And this is something that it's been like a personal thing with me to deal with, is your delivery.
Yeah.
Like we can say the same exact sentence, but how you deliver it is what makes the impact. And there's so many things that go into delivery on a technical level and on like a personal level, physiological level, mental level, everything.
Yeah.
Like,
and I've told you this before that, you know, when I was like a sophomore in college and I started really freestyling, probably heavily under the influence of you, I noticed a linear correlation between reading, rapping, and communicating. What reading was doing to my mind, rapping was doing to my delivery and nonverbal communication, which again, I'll break it down, but you know, I talk about this all the time, which is communication is 55% body language, 38% vocal projection, and 7% what you're saying, so actual content. So it's like reading kind of gives you that 7%, but also gives you the knowledge of the 38 and 55%, but it's just that knowledge part. And then the rapping part is the equivalent to what the hustle up is, and it's the application of that where, you know, it's more focused on that 38 and 55, the body language and the delivery, more so than the actual language you're using.
right.
So I noticed that. Have you noticed anything like any kind of music, maybe music esports or music communication kind of correlations? I actually have though.
I mean, just as a whole, man, music is like essential to life. Like music is everywhere. Like there's music in nature. Like the notes are found in nature.
Well, music is math, and there's math in nature.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
It's all intertwined.
Everything moves in waves, and you can actually physically see that in music, how a melody can go like that and then like that, or how the beat can go like that and like that. And it's just a reminder that life is cyclical, and it just happens. Like and that's what makes it such a beautiful piece of art, is that it gets really fast or really slow or really good and really bad. However you put the language to show duality around that, it just happens that way. And you can see that in video production and music production, any kind of program that lets you see waves.
Yes.
Cool. Well, we've got a few minutes left, and I know that we have to obligatorily ask you to freestyle. You're not getting out of that one.
Freestyle and advice to people who don't produce but might want to, and people who do produce and might want more motivation.
Take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay. Shoot, I got love for everybody. Should we give the rappers some advice too? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Freestyle first.
Freestyle
first.
You want? Alright, I'm gonna do a.
Hold on, I could throw a beat on too.
Alright, drop some gems while he pulls up a beat.
Wait,
Alright,
you want to use your own beat?
Do we have a speaker?
No.
It's gonna be loud.
Yeah, it will pick it up.
Drop those gems though while you look, if you can think.
Okay, so
Go to LamboLoops.com. Go.
biggest thing I could say to all my rappers out there, like he was saying, read and rap a lot.
Yes.
Like reading is essential. It's gonna get your vocab up, and to be honest, it's like a non-negotiable. Like really, unless you want to be stuck saying the same words like every song, you should read. It's crucial. Producers who, haven't started
Or
have start
both.
every day. Every single day, like everything in life is pretty much repetition. Like you build habits through repetition, you get results through repetition. Repetition is key. So like if you can, you know, some days you have a bad day, you need to take a break, but like don't let that break get in the way of your work, especially if production and a career and a lifestyle or even just music you can enjoy is something you want. Like repetition is key.
And I'm not sure if you've done this, but I know other producers have when they started learning, is following blueprints of what other artists do. So how does Tory Lanez make a beat? How does J. Cole make a beat? And really getting those blueprints and then aggregating what you like, what sounds you like, what patterns you like from those blueprints. Is that effective?
Yeah. I mean, if you know what you like, don't just go in there like...
I mean, you would know what artists you like.
Yeah. Start somewhere and then listen to it, get a feel for it. I mean, people do that all the time.
Learn, act, reflect,
Yep.
and iterate.
Yep. Let's see. Engineers, use your ears. It's okay to use your eyes sometimes, but definitely use your ears. And for a freestyle, I got it written for you. I'm getting more into spoken word. You know what I'm saying?
All right, go ahead and do that.
Basically spoken
Go
word.
ahead and do that.
Raps are basically spoken
So you don't
word.
want a beat?
I don't even want to play with the audio quality. If we don't have a speaker, I don't want to.
All right, go ahead and do your.
Oh, I got it.
All right.
All right, so I wrote this the other day. I said, I wanted to see a change, decided to be the change. Now a style switch is an effortless interchange. Let's get this to the
Hey, that started.
No, let's get this to the beat.
Coming in hard.
It's not the same without the beat, yo.
All right, what beat do you want?
This will get louder.
I got it.
This gets louder.
Hmm?
This gets louder.
Okay. Pull up something on BeatStars.
Yeah.
Let's just run this one. Wanted to be the change, decided to be the change. More style switches and effortless interchange.
Shout out Mikey Lambo
I
Beats.
could do
Speak up
two-piece.
over it.
Be loud. Everyone get ready. This is huge.
I made this the other day. It's called Trunks. It's on the LamboLoops.com.
Lambo.
Lambo.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I made the beat and now I grace it with my vocals. I do this for the people laying down and staying hopeful. You about to get a throatful, an earful, a mouthful. You know I'm about to go ahead and do this without pull. Don't nobody know my name, but yeah, they gon' know it soon.
Yeah.
I'm in the hustle up room with the interviews.
Yeah.
I'm with these two dudes. Yeah, you know we straight grinding. And all I know is that the three of us are fucking shining. You know the money blinding, but it ain't about the money. I said the money blinding. Y'all niggas think it's funny. I say any word I want up in the rap, but I don't do that all the time, cause I'm a quality chap and this a quality rap. I do quality over quantity. Yeah, they trying to come and squat with me. See how I'm a beat under pressure, and no, I never crack. I'm like a diamond. Yes, I do that shit when I rap, so I'm like a diamond. I got you, dog. Good manners.
Yeah.
Hey,
That
was fire, bro. Well, yeah.
Damn,
So where can people find you? What's your gamer tag? Everything you got going on, go ahead and plug it right now. Look at the camera when you do it.
It's all under Mikey Lambo. So Twitter, Instagram @it's Mikey Lambo, SoundCloud.com/Mikey Lambo, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Mikey Lambo.
And you have like a gamer. Do you still game? Is that important?
I enter in tournaments every now and then for the fun of it, but that's Mikey Lambo. So.
Hell yeah. Well, you guys heard it here first. Kicked an awesome freestyle, kicked some gems, talked about some cool congruencies between esports, fitness, and music. Fascinating how it all correlates to some degree and everything you learn from them. Don't forget that the best way to learn is to learn, practice, reflect, and iterate that process. Implement. Oh yeah. If you guys are in search of any beats, whether you're an artist or a producer and you want to collab, reach out to Mikey Lambo. I can attest for him that for the last 2.5 years, he has put at least 8 hours a day into his craft. At least 8 hours a day. I've lived with him. He comes to our studio here at our office now, and he works his ass off. Incredible artist, incredible musician. Big things to come for him, so stay tuned, follow his journey. Y'all know where to find us at HSTLUP, www.hstlup.com. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Clint.
Share the message, spread the love, follow Mikey Lambo. Let's build, let's collaborate, fuck competition. And until next time, hustle up! Yeah.